I wanted to tell the niece of Arun Puri that till yesterday I believed that a moderate Muslim was an oxymoron. But she convinced me otherwise, and I want to compliment her. Mr. Akbar, as a moderator, I thought you'd be neutral. I don't think that that was unbiased. And a comment out against my president, X, was unnecessary. Thank you.
Can I add
Sure.
something here? Is this working, by the way? Yeah, now it is. Great. I must tell you that I don't consider myself a moderate Muslim at all. There is nothing moderate about my position. What I am is a reform-minded Muslim. And it's a very important distinction that Americans, especially as they stumble over themselves to determine who is an extremist and who is a moderate, I think that the more important distinction to be made today is who is a moderate and who is a reformer. And let me just quickly explain what I mean by this distinction. Moderate Muslims certainly denounce violence that takes place under the banner of Islam. In many cases, public opinion has pushed them to do so. But the problem is they still deny the role that religion plays in inciting the very violence that is committed in religion's name. You will often hear the next time a bombing or a beheading takes place, an Islamist group claims credit for this, you will often hear moderate Muslims say, no, 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 please don't misunderstand. Islam has nothing to do with this. Not only is this dishonest, as many of the terrorists themselves prove when they quote from scripture, okay? Not only is it dishonest, but it is dangerous. Because in their denial, moderate Muslims, in effect, hand over the opportunity for reinterpretation to those with already malignant intentions. In effect, moderate Muslims say, you terrorists get to walk away with the show. We're not going to come back at you with bold and competing reinterpretations. We can't. Because if we did, well, then we'd be acknowledging that religion really does play a role. And we can't go there since Islam is perfect. We reform-minded Muslims, who are in a much, much smaller but more vocal category, we say, hold on, we must go there. Just as liberal Jews and liberal Christians have reinterpreted their violent passages for a brand new context, we have to do the same. And reinterpretation is not the same as rewriting. As a matter of fact, the Quran itself contains 3 times as many verses calling on Muslims to think and analyze and reflect, instead of verses that tell us only what is right or only what is wrong. In other words, 3 times as many verses promoting ijtihad than verses promoting blind submission. So by that calculation alone, I believe, sir, reform-minded Muslims are at least as authentic as the moderate mainstream and quite possibly more constructive. Thank you.
Well said. Well said. Dinesh?
My name is Dinesh Trivedi. Evidently, there's so much of light out here, the light of knowledge, yet there is so much of darkness outside. My question is this terror purely money and business oriented, or it's conflict of civilization?
Could you please identify who you are addressing the question to?
Any one of the panelists or all of you, or including the moderator, can answer.
Who would like to take this on? Yeah, please.
See, it's a mix of both. The war on terror is as bad as Dr. Madani said, jihad itself. And there is a mix-up of so many things: geopolitics, money, economic interests, personal prejudices. And so you are absolutely right. There is a civilizational dimension as well as political and economic dimension. But the more important thing, which I try to emphasize, maybe in a lighter vein, I distinguish how some religions have been able to avoid this kind of situation in which the monotheistic faiths have landed themselves. See, single God religions have to be more careful. a multi-god religion like Hindu religion, we made peace between gods, got them married or whatever, and ensured that gods lived in peace. The monotheistic faiths have allowed the gods to clash. It's purely failure of interpretation, according to me. No god can clash with other gods. It can only try to see my flock is retained with myself. So I think there is a tremendous failure of religious leadership in monotheistic faiths, and more in Islam. And to that extent, I agree with my fellow panelist, Irshad Manji, that there is a failure of leadership, and what requires, I wouldn't exactly use the word reform because it is not a very good word in these days, because economic reforms have thoroughly failed. And so I would like to use the word introspection instead of reform. Every religion needs introspection. Every segment of a religion needs introspection. And every leader and faithful needs introspection.
ये बात मैं इस बारे में कहना चाहूँगा कि गुरुजी ने जो बात कही है वो पार्शियली मैं उससे एग्री करता हूँ कि यकीनन अपना मुहासबा हमें खुद करना चाहिए, और सब मज़हब वालों को इसके बारे में देखना चाहिए, करना चाहिए, और किया भी जाता रहा है। लेकिन री इंटरप्रिटेशन का जो इशू है वो भी बिल्कुल होना चाहिए, उससे भी मैं एग्री करता हूँ कि री इंटरप्रिटेशन भी होना चाहिए, लेकिन मैं इससे एग्री नहीं करता हूँ कि री इंटरप्रिटेशन कौन करेगा। यहाँ पर मसला खड़ा हो जाएगा कि री इंटरप्रिटेशन कौन करेगा। हमारे यहाँ बहुत सारी लीगल प्रॉब्लम्स आती हैं तो उसके बारे में लीगल ओपिनियन ली जाती हैं। सोली सोराब जी को पूछा जाता है, महमूद मदनी को कोई नहीं पूछता उसके बारे में ना, नहीं पूछता ना कि संजय दत्त इलेक्शन लड़ सकते हैं या नहीं लड़ सकते लखनऊ से, मुझसे नहीं पूछा जाता है। तो ये बात ये है कि जो लोगों की जो फील्ड है उस फील्ड के लोगों को उसमें काम करना चाहिए, ज़रूर करना चाहिए, बिल्कुल।
Thank you. Just one point. The three major monotheistic faiths, Christianity, Judaism, Christianity and Islam, have one thing in common. They have the same God.
But with their own respective addresses.
No, it's the prophets which is the last prophet, and maybe we'll end later on the last prophet and what his meaning is, because there's a lovely hadith which I must tell you about later on. However, the next question is yours, sir, then you, and then you. That's three, and of course fourth will be Shai.
Sure, there are some women who get
Yeah. Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were just telling me to shut up.
Should I give the mic to the lady?
नहीं, आपके हाथ में है, तो please, sorry.
I was wondering, listening to all of you, what would be the final aim of, if I may say, the top management of terrorism? The people down, they use perhaps religion to make good people into terrorists. So they feel that, all right, if you do this, you'll go to heaven. So people at the lower rungs, what they do, I can understand. But the real managers or the management of terrorism, what do they want, and do they think they'll succeed? Bombay saw about 200 people dead. The papers mentioned that they were aiming at 5,000 people to be dead. Even if that had happened, thank God it didn't, but if that happened, you think the terrorists would have earned whatever was ruling of a nation or capturing of a nation, or what is it that the terrorists want?
It's an extremely good question. Who wants to address it? This, I think if you can specifically answer to our Indian context or subcontinental context, it might be worthwhile. Who would like to take it on?
For the terrorist, terror is an advertisement. It's a public relations campaign. It's a motivational exercise. This is where Bush went wrong. He made terrorists larger than they are, more powerful than they are, more motivated than they are. The hatred against Bush transformed into motivation for terror. We should never handle terror that way. The most important way of handling terror is for people here who occupy higher positions in the society to understand that you cannot tackle terror purely by modernity. Modernity is one of the targets of terror. So we must understand the actual ground level reality and try to think of it. Actually, I find layers and layers of differences. So my feeling is a very powerful, sustained dialogue is needed. And I found when probably Maulana Madani is one of the most important personalities of quote-unquote Orthodox Islam. But I find no difficulty in talking to him. Both of us understand religion. Only those who understand religion, religious sentiments, can have the dialogue. We must promote dialogue between religions. Honest dialogue, sincere dialogue, not false dialogue. That all religions are same. They are not same. All religions have the same goal. They don't have the same goal. They don't have the same methods. But all religions must learn to live together is the principle. That is the only way by which we can get over this menace. I entirely agree with Dr. Saab that we are promoting terrorists when we club them with Islam. But I would certainly say the Islamic scholars like him must come out and clarify that non-believers in Islam do not mean kafirs. Generally, non-believer is kafir. You ask a Hindu, he will say, a Christian, according to him, is a believer. A Muslim, according to him, is a believer. Only if a person doesn't believe in any religion, the Hindu will consider him a non-believer. But in Islam, if a non-believer in Islam is considered to be a non-believer, then the problem arises. That's what I told him before we came here, and that is my appeal to him. If this concept is accepted, all the space which the terrorists want to occupy is denied to them.
Guru, lakum dinakum wa ilyadin. Waliyadin. Very, very important and basic principle of the Quran. Your religion for you and my religion for me. As simple. That is the best definition of secularism. You don't impose upon each other. May I just, in answer to that, have one sentence? One of the purposes of the top management, that was a really very good question, is to destroy alternative models of society through chaos, with your inability to defend yourself. So each time it is a major test. Moini, sorry.
My question is to Madani Sahib. Religion is a personal affair. It is my personal relationship with my God.
Yeah.
That's it. Why should any mullah or any Shankaracharya or the Akal Takht or the Pope in Rome tell me what sort of relationship I should have with my God? आपने कहा कि किसी religious leader को precepts lay down करने हैं. I don't accept that. Can you convince me?
देखिए, बात ये है कि ये बात बिल्कुल सही है कि किसी को किसी के साथ ज़बरदस्ती करने का कोई हक नहीं. लेकिन जब हम एक सोसाइटी में रहते हैं तो हमारी एक उस सोसाइटी को जो हम मुनासिब समझते हैं, हमसे सवाल किया जा रहा है कि ये जिहाद हो रहा है, आप जिहाद के बारे में बताइए क्या है ये जिहाद है? हम कहते हैं जिहाद नहीं है, ये फसाद है, कहते हैं ना. और उसको लोग पसंद भी करते हैं क्योंकि वो ज़रूरत है. वो ज़रूरत है इस वक्त की कि हमें कहना है, लड़ना है उन लोगों से जो जिहाद के नाम पर फसाद फैला रहे हैं. ऐसे ही दूसरे इश्यूज़ पर भी है. जिसको सही लगे मान लो, नहीं से लगे मत मानो. ज़बरदस्ती तो कुछ है नहीं इसमें. तो जो भी मज़ाहिब, जैसे कल दलाई लामा साहब थे, वो कंपेशन की बात करते थे, लव की बात करते थे, और बहुत सारी बातें उन्होंने करी. किसी को अच्छा लगेगा बिल्कुल मानेगा, किसी को अच्छा नहीं लगेगा तो वो अपने दिल में हेट लेके बैठेगा कि हमें हेट है और हेट पे ही रहना. तो हैं भी हेट वाले लोग दुनिया में. ये अपनी अपनी चॉइस की बात है. हम तो बता सकते हैं कि हमारे जो मॉडर्न दुनिया को मॉडर्नाइजेशन की तरफ इस तरह ले जाने वाले लोग बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज बन गए हैं. हमारी सोसाइटी, हमारी सिविल सोसाइटी ब्रेक हो रही, टूट रही है. हमारा जो हिंदी में कहते हैं, इंग्लिश ज़बान में तो कल्चर कहते हैं, उर्दू में हम लोग तहज़ीब कहते हैं. हमारी तहज़ीब ख़तरे में है. तहज़ीब अलग चीज़ है, मज़हब अलग चीज़ है. मज़हब बिल्कुल अलग चीज़ है, वो इंडिविजुअल मैटर है, बिल्कुल सही. लेकिन हमारी एक तहज़ीब है, हमारी एक सोसाइटी है. इंडिया की भी अपनी एक तहज़ीब है. तो संस्कृति, हमारी संस्कृति जो है हमें उसको बचाना है। हम मॉडर्न हो जाएं, बिल्कुल हो जाएं, अपने कपड़ों से, अपने खाने पीने, लेकिन विचार से हमें मॉडर्न नहीं होना चाहिए। विचार हमारा वही रहना चाहिए जो हमारी संस्कृति ने हमें दिया है। ये एक ख्याल है, आपको नहीं अच्छा लगता मत मानिए, क्या बात है।
आप कह रहे थे कि जो इंटरप्रिटेशन है रिलीजन का वो किसी मौलवी से
ना मैंने ये नहीं कहा मौलवी से,
या अकाल तख्त से
मैंने मौलवी से नहीं कहा। इंटरप्रिटेशन देखिए, हर चीज एक फील्ड है, उस फील्ड का जो स्पेशलिस्ट हो उससे आप कराइए। वो जो आदमी जिस फील्ड के बारे में जानता नहीं, मैं इंडियन पेनल कोड के बारे में नहीं जानता, फला नहीं जानता, कुछ पढ़ा नहीं उसके बारे में, मेरी वो फील्ड नहीं है, तो मुझसे उसके बारे में कोई भी नहीं पूछता है। लेकिन धर्म के बारे में सब लोग सबसे पूछने लगते हैं और सब बोलने लगते हैं, यह प्रॉब्लम आ जाती है इसमें थोड़ी सी।
Yes, please.
I'm Anuradha from the SRM University. When a child is born, you know, the child is neither a Hindu or a Christian. The child just takes the religion the family follows. Later, the child also has a choice to convert into the religion the child likes. What is the significance of religion? How important are these interpretations to them? Will our children become the victims of religion because we are not agreeing on a common understanding of what religion means to us?
If I may try to answer that very profound question, and it is deep. Something else, though, that's deep in our world today is a sense of meaninglessness. You know, we live in an age, as everybody knows, of globalization. And this free movement, relatively free movement of capital, of goods, of people, even of jobs, what few exist now. But what it suggests is that people are thrown into chaos of their own. And so many people around the world don't, quote, know who they are. And so in a time of such aggressive fluidity, religion, it's easy for religion to become calcified, to be the source of absolutes, and for people to cling, and to be able to say, through this, I know who I am. The problem with that notion of who I am is that it's actually not about who you are at all. It's about what you are. Identity is only about what you are. It's constructed, often in relation to the other. Integrity, which is not identity, integrity is much more complex, takes into account your particular values, your personal narrative, your authentic journey in this world. That, I believe, is one of the great transitions that we have both the opportunity and the challenge to make through our children, you know, in the years coming, is that transition from identity into integrity. And what are we teaching our children about integrity? If anything, do we even use that word in our households, in our own languages, that is? Do we even understand that concept of wholeness? Because it allows us to be many contradictory things at once, whereas identity allows you to be only one thing at once. And that reduces you as a multifaceted human being to something far less than you actually are. And I want to just springboard off of that idea to quickly address the gentleman's question about, you know, what is it that the terrorists want? Now, I know, sir, I remember very clearly that you were asking about the top-tier management. But my constituency is a relatively young one. The people from whom I hear around the world are in their teens and in their 20s and their 30s. And many young fundamentalists actually do email me, usually to berate me, but then I, you know, engage in conversation and I come to learn some of the insights about how they got to be where they are. I must tell you, I am amazed that this is not reported in the media, but I hear this over and over again from young radicalized Muslims in the West, that they're not just fighting what so many people say is the racism of their societies. Okay, that's easy. That's a lazy answer. What they tell me is that they are also actually fighting what they would call the tribalism within their own Pakistani, in many cases, I'm thinking of the UK in particular, or Bangladeshi communities, where their elders are saying to them, this is who you are, which is really to say this is what you are, this is who you are, this is where you belong, this is what you believe. No questions allowed. End of story. And you know what? In this world of free movement of information, these kids are not to be infantilized that way. Do we really think they're that stupid? Do we not realize that they are making decisions every single day as they navigate information and misinformation on the internet? They feel utterly humiliated by their own and not just by the so-called outside oppressors. And so that makes them extremely vulnerable to anybody who preaches to them meaning. Meaning. And that is the power of religion.
Shahid?
Thank you very much. Must compliment India Today for putting together such an erudite panel. Just by way of observation, it's not a question, nothing official about it. For that, I get plenty of opportunity otherwise. MJ, you talked about the two-nation theory, and you very rightly said that what the two nations today exist, that's a matter of fact, matter of history. But as regards the theory itself, let me tell you that this is still the feeling in Pakistan, that this is the glue which keeps the people of Pakistan together. But I must also quickly add that this is in no way to suggest that on the average, the people in Pakistan do not want good, better relations with India. That is besides the point. But the fact of the matter is that the two-nation theory, 60 plus years ago, there was an idea, a realization, the two nations have come to stay, but at the same time, as I said, there is a desire, a genuine desire on both sides, I believe, to improve relations with each other. Good. So that about the two-nation theory. Maulana Sahab, आपने फरमाया कि यहाँ आपको बड़ी पजीराई मिलती है, आपको बड़ी अच्छी तरीके से सुना जाता है. मैं आपको यकीन दिलाता हूँ, आप पाकिस्तान तशरीफ़ लाएं, आपको वहाँ भी इसी किस्म से आपको हाथों हाथ लिया जाएगा जिस तरह यहाँ लिया जाता है.
मुझे मालूम है ये बात, मालूम है, और लिया जाता रहे, लिया जाता भी है, लिया जाता.
जो आपने मिसाल दी दो आँखों की, वो बिल्कुल सही है. मैं उम्मीद करता हूँ, दुआ करता हूँ कि मुसलमान जहाँ भी हैं, जिस जगह पे भी हैं, वो भी इसी अपने नज़रिए से अपने मुल्क को, अपने रिलीजन को, अपने धर्म को इस तरीके से देखते रहें. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया.
बात यह है कि इस्लाम बिल्कुल अलग चीज़ है और मुसलमान बिल्कुल अलग चीज़ है. मुसलमानों का मामला इस्लाम से बिल्कुल अलग हो गया.
सही बात. अरुण?
I am Arun uncle, Arun chacha. So I don't. It seems to me that most of terrorism which is happening today is happening in the name of Islam, for whatever reason. And it seems to me also that they're also winning this war in terms of hearts and minds. What is it specifically that the panel would suggest for media, politics, society as a whole, that how do you counter this? I know it's a big, large issue. People have said in our conclave that, it's poverty, it's discrimination, and the war on terror itself creates its own reaction. But I think that these are all a minority. How do we fight this war on terror as individuals, specifically? I mean, there's theological debates can happen, but in the end, we have to deal with this on the ground.
I think that question requires an answer from everyone, as briefly as possible, because I'm getting a lot of pressure from the other side. So shall we start? Please, आप शुरू करें.
मीडिया के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से कह रहा हूँ, इस्लामिक टेररिस्ट का लफ्ज़ बंद कर देना चाहिए, उससे उन्हें सपोर्ट मिलती है. जिहादी कहना बंद कर देना चाहिए. अगर मुसलमान हैं तो कहा जाए मुस्लिम टेररिस्ट. इस्लामिक ना, इस्लामिक कह देने से वो बात वहाँ चली जाती है कि ये थियोलॉजिकल इनको सपोर्ट है. उनको उससे अलग करना है. छोटे से ग्रुप है, उनको साइड लाइन करना है वो पूरे मुस्लिम उम्मा से और इस्लामिक वर्ल्ड से. बस इतनी बात.
Very good, Guru.
Islamic scholars should be asked to deny that Hindus are kafirs.
ये तो I think there was a recent fatwa on that.
Fatwa is not on this issue. That issue they issued. Second, that India is not Darul Harb.
ये भी तो कह दिया गया।
I mean,
ठीक है, ठीक है।
this should be unanimous opinion, not one institution saying it and others denouncing it. This is the only way you can deny theological space to terrorists. See, you can never contain it by any other means. Secular means, modern means, military means, political means, or inadequate. You have to get into the core of what is their claim over Islam. Their claim over Islam is that non-Muslims are non-believers. Non-believers are not Muslims. You have to say non-believer means you don't believe in any religion. The Hindu position must be taken by Islamic scholars. That's the only answer, and the entire intellectual establishment should demand it from the Muslim scholars.
मैं इसके गुरुजी के बारे में बात पे देखिए, ये मुसलमान इस मुल्क में लोग कहते हैं माइनॉरिटी है, और माइनॉरिटिज़म काफ़ी चलता भी है, उसके हवाले से बहुत सारी बातें होती हैं, सीधी भी और उल्टी भी। मैं मानता हूं कि मुसलमान इस मुल्क की सेकंड लार्जेस्ट मेजॉरिटी है, और मुसलमान इस मुल्क का असेट है, और उसे असेट बनना है, उसको मायूस नहीं होने देना है, होपलेसनेस उसमें पैदा नहीं होने देनी है, उसको इस मेन फोर्स लाना है, मेन स्ट्रीम में लाना है। ये जो सवाल आता है बार बार, दारुल हर्ब है, मुसलमान इस मुल्क को दारुल हर्ब मानता है, अच्छा नहीं मानते हो तो साबित करो, सब लोग मिलकर के फतवा दो। इसी तरह से कहा जाता है कि वो अभी काफिर कहना, तुम लोग काफिर मानते हो इसलिए प्रॉब्लम है, हम कहते हैं हम काफिर नहीं मानते हैं इसलिए प्रॉब्लम है, उसके बावजूद भी प्रॉब्लम है। प्रॉब्लम के बहुत सारे सोर्सेज हैं, प्लीज़ गड्ढे में मत डालो, दीवार से मत लगाओ, ऐसा काम मत करो कि जिससे लोगों में हमेशा ये बात पैदा रहे कि हम तो मुजरिम हैं। तो ये शायद मेरे ख्याल में इतना ज़्यादा एग्रेसिव टेररिज्म के ऊपर हमने शुरू किया और काफ़ी कुछ किया, तो किसी साहब ने मुझे कहा पहले फतवा लाओ तब मानेंगे, तो हम फतवा लिया है। अब कहने लगे कि वो इसके काफिर के दारुल अमन मानो और इसका फतवा दो, वो फतवा भी लिया। तो अब सब लोग मिल करके कहो, सब लोग मिल करके कहने के बाद और भी कई सवाल खड़े होंगे, लोग करते रहेंगे हमेशा। ये सिचुएशन शायद मेरे ख्याल में इस इंडिया को जिस तरफ हमें ले जाना है उसके लिए शायद मुनासिब नहीं है।
लेट मी जस्ट कंक्लूड ऑन जो आपको sure, please. Sorry.
I just whispered to him, I haven't had a chance to answer that question. Very, very briefly, you talk about, ensuring that various schools of Islamic thought can agree that Hindus are not kufr or infidels of any kind. This, again, Islamic interfaith blessing for marriage, the one that is translated into Hindi, actually makes the case for why Hindus are, in fact, believers in a way that Muslims can accept. So, for those who are interested, please know that there are some copies here for you. Arun Chacha, you asked, and I'm taking you literally, when you say, what is it that individuals can do? Because from what I understand, we're still talking big picture concepts here. What is it that you can do, or that you can do, or that Mohini can do? I tell you, we are living increasingly, even in this country, I might even suggest especially in this country, at a time of self-censorship, where people are so afraid to ask questions out loud about what is happening under the banner of various religions, but in particular under the banner of Islam. I say we have to bust out of that self-censorship. What is the point of living in an open society if we are not willing to use our voices to ask the important questions that need to be asked, whether you are a member of the media or whether you are not? And so I simply suggest this. The next time you have a question that you know is going to offend or ruffle the feathers of a Muslim, okay, ask it anyway. And when that person comes back to say, oh, you are not Muslim, you cannot comment if you do not represent, ask them, why is it that you are racially profiling me? You, in fact, are saying that because I am not Muslim, I do not have any role in this most public of public conversations. You are reducing me to my demographics instead of elevating me to our shared values. This is racial profiling. And if that's not acceptable to do to Muslims, why is it acceptable to do to non-Muslims? Having upset them, you may as well go one step further. You have nothing to lose, okay? You then ask them, take the logical implications of your argument that you cannot comment if you do not represent. The logical implication is that you, as a Muslim in India, have no right to question US foreign policy. You have no right to do that because you are not part of American culture. Oh, and it also means that you, as a Muslim in India, have absolutely no right to question the human rights abuses at Guantanamo Bay or at Abu Ghraib, because you are not part of military culture, just as me as a civilian, I'm not either. Means that we have to shut up. We have no right to say anything. Is this absurd? And if this person is being honest with you, he or she will say, of course it's absurd, because it is. And it's equally absurd when those kinds of arguments are used to censor non-Muslims. The point of living in an open society is to ask questions. That is how we will keep our societies open. And as a very distinguished member of the media, you have a leading role to play in that effort, which is why I started my own statement today by congratulating and thanking India Today for taking the positions that aren't always popular, but that need to be taken if we're going to continue in a spirit of healthy debate. Thanks.